What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today I am looking back at the PFL 2024 regular season. We're now finished with the regular season. All 6 events are in the book. There's 3 more playoff events coming up before the big finale at the end of the year. So here at basically the midpoint of the year, I'm going to take a look back at those 6 events, look at the table where they finished, and look at the upcoming events too, because it's very, very interesting where everyone lies, where everyone will be fighting at the in the next 3 events, and how the season panned out, because it's very interesting, I feel. And just to maybe give a quick overview of this season compared to other seasons, because I feel like this is a very different season. We came into it very much not knowing what the PFL was going to look like, how Bellator was going to look like, how the season tournament format was going to look this year in terms of how the different fighters change it. I think the one biggest change, and look, everyone has their opinion on, do they like this format? Do they like, no kind of season tournaments, no playoffs and things? Or do they like, I think a lot of people are kind of like, oh, we like the European format, or do you want just like a normal Bellator format, UFC format, right? we can all have our opinions on that, but forget about that for a second. What I think changed this year an awful lot was the quality of the fighters being a lot more even, made the how do I put this now? Right, whoever won, it was like, and we'll take out the women's division here for a second, and that's even better, I think, but a different argument. But the featherweights, heavyweights, light heavyweights, welterweights, and lightweights. Previously, right, I'll give you an example, right? 2 people, Anthony Pettis, Fabricio Verdum, right? They were in the seasons, and when they didn't get through, which I believe happened in both cases, there was like, they've lost their star. Like the one guy who kind of wanted to get through in each division didn't manage to get through. I think now you have so many guys in each division that it doesn't really make a big difference. Like I'll take the first division here. I'm looking at their website, right? So the featherweights, like Adam Barrocks and Brett Johns, Pedro Carvalho, other guys as well. Especially, I'd say Barrocks was a highly rated prospect for years. You would think, if he had just signed for PFL before, you'd be thinking, geez, he didn't get through. Like Burgos last year. He didn't get through. Geez, after signing him now, that's not great. But then you've Kai Kamaka, Kizriev, Braga, and Lochnan did get through. So, like, you're missing out on Barrocks, you're missing out on Barzola, you're missing out on Brett Johns and all them good names who people like, especially, Brett Johns coming out of Wales and all that. But all the lads going through are good fighters. Like, you can say the same as like Daniel James. I think he had a great performance. I know he was injured and didn't get the second one. He missed out. But like Tim Johnson, what a story that is coming through. Like, you want Gulsov in there. Obviously, you're talking about him being maybe your best heavyweight, and the other lads as well. Like, you can say the same about nearly all the divisions. You're missing out on, like, the light heavyweights. You're missing out on Shoeface, who was your ex-champ. You're missing out about Sadabusi, your ex-champ. You're missing out on Polizzi, who might have given one of the performances, but who got through. Silveira got through, gave a great performance. We're kind of spoiling here, but Impa got through, Rob got through, and Yasha Mordov, who was maybe the fighter of the year so far in PFL, all got through. So there's way less disappointment. Like, I'll just give a quick look down through the rest of the divisions. I think it goes the same for almost all of them. Like, okay, there's our fighters you would like to have seen maybe getting through, but all the fighters that did get through also deserve to get through. Like, and the women's flyweight division, as I said, I'd come back to it. We never before, every other time, it was either 3 years, Kayla Harrison, one woman show, and the last year, Pacheco, one woman show. Now, it didn't always work out that way, especially in the year when Pacheco beat Kayla Harrison and won, obviously. But entering in it, talking about it, thinking about it, it was a one woman show. It didn't turn out that way, right? And then the next year, Kayla Harrison wasn't in it, one woman show with Pacheco, even though she had a couple hard fights as well, but you get me. This year, it's a 5-woman show. Any of the 5 of them could have won, and Velasquez not getting through. I know I have a bit to say about that in a second. There was one match, especially the matchmaking, I think was a big mistake, or 2 maybe, but generally I think that I don't have many problems with it. But even like Velasquez didn't make it. Like you're saying, it's a pity she didn't make it. Such a good performance the last time as well. But the four who got through are the four best women. Let's be honest. 3 women who didn't get through got wins. That's mad. Like that's mad to think of that. How good it actually is. So yeah, I think that's to me the major difference between this year and previous years. That there's no disappointment for anyone not getting through. Now, look, if you're a Yamauchi fan, or you're a Mads Burnell fan, or you're a Sadabusi fan, absolutely, or if you're from Ireland, maybe you didn't see Pedro getting through, or you're from Sweden, you didn't see C getting through, or whatever it might be, absolutely. No, I'm not saying that, but for the unbiased fan or the neutral, I think that was the case. So let's get into these events and let's look back first of all on the first PFL card of the year. Went down on April 4th, and it kicked off with Valentin Moldavsky beating Ante Delia, a guy and Ante Delia, obviously, who has been around for a very long time. He obviously was the star of a couple of years, and he struggled obviously here. Got injured after this as well, and he didn't end up fighting the second time, and it was a pretty comprehensive and quick win for Moldavsky, who at the time there was a lot of talk of, I did the preview and talked about all the decisions obviously he had been to in his career, but I think he entered this year with a very different mindset, in that I go in there and get a quick finish, and it'll benefit me, and it did. I think the dynamic at the start of the year too, and I think it's a dynamic which will go on for a few years if they're smart about the matchmaking, is the Bellator versus PFL dynamic. Very, very smart, I think, to do that, especially with the first main event, and something I think they should continue to do. Denis Goltsov picked up another win as well against Linton Vassell there. And the one thing about the heavyweights, and I suppose this should not be at all shocking about the heavyweights, is you can't play MMA math at the heavyweights. So one lad beats another lad beats another. You're expecting one guy to win and they don't win. And, like Linton Vassell, Moldavsky came in here, had a fantastic performance. You're thinking, okay, he's going to the next level. He's still relatively young in his career, only 17 fights into his career. You're kind of thinking, okay, right, he got past that Vassell loss. Vassell came in here, he lost. You're kind of thinking he's older now. And then what happened later on? Well, we'll hear what happened later on, but look, we know what happened. Vassell went in and he beat Moldavsky. But the other, we go through the heavyweights, I suppose. First, Daniel James, I believe, missed weight, didn't he? And he beat Marcelo Golm. A very, very good win for him there as well. Sergio Bellasini, it's unfortunate he got injured after this, because he probably looked to pick it a bunch maybe here in the first weekend. I'm like thinking back, maybe we'll discuss this at the end, but was that the fight of the 6 events so far? Bellasini and Ivanov? I think it might be an absolute barn burner. Like, you look at a mid-card heavyweight fight, you're thinking, how could that be the fight here? But I think it might have been. It was a absolutely phenomenal fight. Oleg Popov then beat Steve Mowry, who, Steve Mowry, another guy who maybe flattered to deceive. I had real high hopes for him, but he just hasn't reached that level yet in his career. And that was it for the heavyweights on the first night. We also had the women's flyweight fights on the first night. And here's the one matchup that I think I would like to draw some complaints with, because you put Liz Carmouche in there against Juliana Velasquez, right? And what my whole argument at the start, why the biggest change, and it's a massive positive for the PFL, was the not knowing who was going to qualify, leaving it open, and having no real qualms about it either. Whoever qualified. When you put Liz Carmouche in there against Juliana Velasquez, who she had beaten twice before, and she beats her again, you're kind of quickly moving that fight. So there's basically, with all due respect to the likes of Elisa Malden and Elira Joanna and others, you have 5 very good fighters here, and you have 4 spaces for them. When you put Carmouche against Velasquez at the very start, it kind of takes away that jeopardy. You kind of know from that point on, okay, it's going to be Carmouche, Dicheva, Santos, and who's Gina Bishop who get through. You kind of know it from that point on. Now, it might not always work out that way, but And even like I have no problem with giving a hard matchup to either Carmouche or Velasquez, like, but don't do that matchup when you kind of know who's going to win because we've seen it twice before. Like, do Velasquez against Santos, do Velasquez against Dicheva, do Carmouche against Santos, and let's get real very, very quickly. I've no problem with any of that, right? I've no problem with any of that, but just don't give us. I don't mind a rematch, but don't give us a third fight when someone has already beaten them twice before. Even the rematch, we get the rematches in the semi-finals or in the finals, you know. But yeah, that'd be the major criticism I had this year, because you kind of fumbled this great division you have for the first time, and I couldn't say enough good things about this women's flyweight division. They've done a great job signing people for it, and if it was this way again next year, I'd be happy with it as well. And the semi-finals are very good. No, absolutely, I've no complaints about it whatsoever. Just this matchmaking almost took away how good it was. So that's the one complaint I'd have. And, you know, as happened, Liz Carmouche won this fight. Dicheva won as well pretty easily against Lisa Malden. Looked very, very good. Talia Santos, again, as well. Elira Joanna beat her pretty comprehensively. Kanawana Tabe beat Shannon Young. And Jenna Bishop extended her unbeaten record with an armbar over Chelsea Hackett in the first round. And there was a couple of wins for Ivy and Meredith as well on the undercard there. Then we go to the second event of the year, which went down on April 12th, 2024, over in the Virgin Hotels in Las Vegas. The first event actually was on in San Antonio in Texas, but the second event saw Impa Kasanganay in the main event against easy Alex Polizzi. And do you know what? Impa Kasanganay is one of those guys that has come over to the PFL and just made himself a star, really. I'm a massive, massive Impa fan now. Every time he's fighting, it's much watch TV, and it's for two reasons, right? He's going out and finishing lads and putting on exciting fights. Absolutely, he always did that, right? He always did, maybe not always finish lads, but always put on good fights. But he's fighting a more technical, and at the more technical style, a more classy style, a more, smart style. Now, it doesn't always work out that way. Look, everyone can perform in every fight, no doubt about it. But I love seeing improvements in fighters. I love seeing fighters going from a level where they're a fun fighter that you have hope for to the fighter that you almost have expectation for. And that, to me, is Impa Kasanganay. And he went out there and he put Alex Polizzi away in the first round as well. Looked absolutely phenomenal. And Alex Polizzi, he tried his damnedest. We'll talk about him later on again. Very much one of those guys, Polizzi, who's a gamer. He goes into these fights and, he doesn't always win them, absolutely, but he puts on a show. He tries his best, and he never gives in. There's no doubt about that. In the co-main event, then we had Tom Breeze against Rob Wilkinson, and this was obviously a tough one for Tom Breeze. Look, he got to the next fight, and he ended up pulling out. We know, Tom Breeze has had very much big issues getting to the fight. The mental side of it has always been a massive issue for Tom Breeze, and I think we saw a bit of that in this fight. He hit Wilkinson with a shot that wasn't as hard as the shot Wilkinson hit him with and basically knocked him out. I just think Tom Breeze is one of those guys, all the skill in the world, but just cannot make it at a certain level. And Rob Wilkinson, look, he seems the other way. Again, it's been a tough time for Rob Wilkinson, obviously, with what happened last year. Coming back here, got a quick finish. Hard to know how good he looked, and we'll talk about what happened in his next fight later on. But, a good win for him there. Then we Clay Collard against Patricky Ferreira. Again, this is a nominee for fight of the tournament so far, fight of the season so far. And you could argue, a lot of people probably argue this was a really, really, really good fight in Clay Collard. Again, Clay Collard is one of these guys that makes PFL look good, because he's never reached that summit yet. Yet he always puts on fun fights, always competitive, always does well. You have to respect that out of Clay Collard. One of the biggest upsets in the year, I suppose, is Michael Dufour, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, submitted Mads Burnell, the highly rated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, in the second round, and looked very, very good in that. Then Silveira beat Sadabusi, but it was the broken finger, if we remember that. Shoefest beat Biong, rear naked choked him early. And Yashimurdov put on a great display to beat Jacob Indoy in that one as well. Then Bryn Primus, who I said it from the very start. Bryn Primus is made for this sort of thing, and he beat Bruno Miranda. Gabzi Rabazanov beat Renfro, and then Espinoza beat Piglatti, and Nunes beat Heiderman in a heavyweight showcase fight as well. So the lightweights there and the light heavyweights put on a good event in the second one. The third event of the year was on April 19th, and this was in the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, and we had Magomed Umalatov against Andrei Koreshkov. Now, an interesting fight here, I think, because what we really saw here is one of the top welterweights for the last few years, I suppose, outside of the UFC, in Koreshkov, against the guy who is going to become that. You know, Magomed Umalatov, now, what is he, 16, 17 and 0. Just a real good style, good on the feet, but also like domineering on the ground. And a guy in this welterweight division. This welterweight division is just scarily good. You know, Musayev, unbelievable. Ramazanov, unbelievable. You know, Dan Madge, a good fighter as well. But you could argue that this guy is as good as any of them. Magomed Umalatov, and obviously we'll talk in a second about how it's going to look for him in the coming weeks. But a great win there for him. We'll run through the rest of the welterweights here. I just mentioned Musayev. He destroyed Logan Storley, knocked him out in the second round. Coming into this, I looked at Musayev and I looked at Ramazanov. Maybe this is a better discussion for a couple of cards' time. But I was looking and thinking, like, with Magomed Karamov not in the season this year, obviously Ray Cooper as well, it's one of these guys, it's open and shut for them to win this. Musayev certainly has been the guy who stood up so far, has looked unbelievable, and like there's so many welterweights in the world now that are so good. Like, obviously in the UFC we have, you know, Leon Edwards, we have Shemaev, we can get down there, Rachmanov, Ian Gary, Della Medellina, Burns, Balal, all of them. But like with Musayev, Magomed Karamov, Ramazanov, Jason Jackson, Amasov, the list goes on, and you know, even over in One Championship, there's some very good guys over there as well. It's hard to know what weight class they're at with the weight cutting, but still they have some very good guys. And obviously Ramazanov came over from there, but Musayev, is he the pick of the bunch? Is he as good as any of them? And we must not forget Ramazan Kuramagomedov as well. Obviously, he won the title last week. I finally got his name right for a change. But God, the welterweight division is unbelievable. Absolutely. Imagine it's an 8-man tournament, the welterweight. I'd watch that. I would watch that. But a great win for him there. Guy Amucci beat Neiman Gracie as well in a straightforward enough one there. He's better on the feet, no doubt about that. And that one. Then Ramazanov there was a misweight, was it for Strapoli? I think it was. He beat him there, rear naked, choked him, and Don Madge got a win over Brendan Ward as well, finish him in the first round. Featherweights were also on deck in this. Brendan Loughnane, obviously the most controversial fight maybe of the year, very, very early stoppage there against Pedro Carvalho. And for Pedro, God, you have to feel, we'll talk more about it in a second, but you have to feel sorry for Pedro, you know. Early stoppage there, and we'll talk about his next fight in a second. But God Almighty, what an unfortunate year for Pedro, no doubt about it. Braga beat Justin Gonzalez. Then, Braga, one of the homemade stars for PFL. You know, great year last year, and again this year. You missed weight obviously for his second fight, but what a performance out of him throughout the years. Kai Kamaka as well, another guy who had his stints in the UFC, had his stints in Bellator. But I think he's coming of age here now. Beat Bubba Jenkins, look very, very good. In that one, then Adam Barrocks, obviously we talked about him earlier on. Good win against Barzola, but didn't end up making it. Kizriev took Brett Johns to task really in that fight. Again, you're looking at top fighters outside the UFC. Kizriev right up there in the featherweight division. Like, it's funny enough, I was thinking of it as he was fighting the other day, and I'm like, imagine him versus Taporia. Like, I don't know. Is there, like, a lot of people love Ivlaev and think he is the next guy, but God, I think Kizriev is better than Ivlaev, to be honest. I'm not massively sold on Ivlaev and Kizriev. I might be sold on him. We Tyler Diamond in beating Otto Rodriguez and looking for a place in as a replacement. Then we got to this three the June fights in PFL. The fourth one happened in the Mohegan Sun on June 13th. And that fight I hinted at earlier, Villeneuve Vassell, the turnaround against Valentin Moldavsky. This is obviously an odd fight where one guy was true at one stage and one guy wasn't at the other stage. Turned into a split decision, very close fight. But again, this is maybe the other fight I've hinted at. Like, was this the right fight to make when you knew this sort of thing could happen, especially in a trilogy? It's funny because, like, you look at any trilogy and it's 1-1 going into the third and you're thinking, okay, there's massive jeopardy there. But by the time the second round started here, if memory serves me, Moldavsky knew he was through, Vassell knew he was out. And then the jeopardy of that is kind of gone. But it's kind of, you still want to win the fight, obviously, and you still want to, get your win bonus or whatever. But then the trilogy aspect of it is still there as well. Just all a bit odd. Just all a bit odd. And I think they should just avoid that. I don't know who's matchmaking for PFL at the moment, but I'm sure they put plenty of thought into it, right? There's no doubt about that. But I just think maybe a little bit more thought, or maybe an MMA expert, like someone like myself who will think of the odd thing of it. They need a composer. My colleague Graham over in the Severe Maybach. Someone like that will think, right, this is why you shouldn't make it. Does the fight make sense? Are both of them available on that day? Is it good matchmaking? Yeah, no problem with any of that, right? But like, if it reaches this stage, this is going to die away. Should you make that fight? That's the sort of question I think that they need asking. Look, and I'm sure they do, and I'm sure it's not as easy as I'm making out here, but at the same time, you have to get those ones right. Then we have Dechev against Hackett, who put up a better fight than I thought, to be honest, but still got finished early. Actually, we'll go for the rest of the heavyweights fights. First, Goltsov beat Santos and looked good in it, took him out pretty quickly. Popov, who underrated here. Popov, beating lads around. Maybe not the best performance in the world going to decisions, but a good win for him. Golm lost to Terrell Fortune, who's kind of the same, I suppose. And then Tim Johnson, got the first round knockout to get himself through. So very, very good there. And then the the women's fights, as I mentioned, Dechev with Hackett, Liz Carmouche, 2.5 rounds down, 2 and 15, 16 rounds down, and gets the armbar with 8 seconds left in the third to rescue herself there. A great win for Liz after that. Gina Bishop and Talia Santos went to split decision, and Talia Santos won that. Titanic fight there again. Lira Joanna probably put on the best display of her career, I think, against Shanna Young, won the decision. And Juliana Velasquez, it's very, Inabe won, but Juliana Velasquez, if there's, I mentioned at the start, obviously, we're not disappointed too much about anyone that went out because of the good people that went in. I would say Velasquez is probably the one. If you could have picked for someone to be in the last 4, she might have been it. Now, who will she replace? That's the question I don't really want to answer. But just because you lose to Liz Carmouche a few times doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. And she showed that here against Malden. And it's a pity she didn't get to showcase herself again. But dim's the breaks. Then June 21st, we had the 5th event, headlined by Mads Burnell and Clay Collard. Again, another odd one because of the standings, I suppose. Burnell did go on to win the unanimous decision there. And the rest of the lightweight fights, Bruno Miranda split decision against Patricky, an unlucky kind of year there as well. Bryn Primus, I told you he was perfect for this. He ended up getting a rear naked choke in a tough fight with Solomon Renfro. Make no mistake about that. Gabzi Rabizabanov didn't look great against Elvin Espinoza. Adam Pigalotti beat Dufour, and I suppose if you had asked me who would win that fight at the start of the year, I would have said Pigalotti. But by the time it happened, I suppose it was kind of an underdog win. And that's what can happen in the season format too. Cosio looked good and Zurcher looked good as well in the showcase fights. But then light heavyweight then Kasanganai beat Jacob Ndai and looked good doing it too. A doctor stoppage at the end of the second. Although Ndai had his moments, almost caught Kasanganai a few times. Rob Wilkinson won a split decision against Joshua Silveira. Very close fight. I know a lot of people online were saying, okay, Wilkinson definitely won it, but I wasn't so sure. I probably would have picked Wilkinson, but very close. Yakhshimordov, great performance, dominated. Beyond Pelisi got the win then against Shufas. What a win for Pelisi. Mentioned him earlier, a guy you could never rule out. Sadabusi, another guy you can count himself unlucky, got injured in the first fight, won the second fight. Very, very unlucky, I would say there. So those are lightweights and light heavyweights. And in the final card of the regular season, PFL 6 went down on June 29th in Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. First of all, the featherweights, Brendan Loughnane just took Justin Gonzalez apart. beat him from the first bell until the fight was called off by Jason Herzog in the middle of the second after a massive cut to the head of Justin Gonzalez countered by a knee. It's funny, elbows are banned, but knees aren't, and maybe this is an argument for why the knees should be banned too. But no, bring in elbows. Like, it doesn't happen that often. But yeah, great win for Brendan Loughnane. Look, a flawless victory there, flawless victory. Elsewhere in the featherweights, Braga again won, who was very good. Kai Kamaka beat Pedro Carvalho, a very close decision. Again, just to mention, I mentioned earlier on with Pedro, lost a bad early stoppage in the first fight, lost a very close split. Well, it was a unanimous decision, but this is a sort of fight I said on Twitter at the time, and this is not Irish bias here or anything. I'd say Kai Kamaka would probably tell you the same. It could have been 30-27 one way, it could have been 30-27 the other way. The fact it was a unanimous decision doesn't really say much about it, but look, did Kai Kamaka deserve it? Like, if I was pushed to give my score, I would have probably given 29-28 to Kamaka for the first 2 rounds. I think Carvalho definitely won the third, but the only round, not definitely, but the only round I was definite about in my mind afterward was the third. First and second, really close, but at a push, I might give him the Kai, but Jesus, it is at a push, really. I know a lot of people who thought Pedro won inside and outside of Ireland, so how unlucky for Pedro. Very, very, very unlucky. Dimi Kizriev, whom, Jesus, I've never seen anyone do to Barzola Barzola taken these losses down through the years, but I've never seen anyone do to him what Kizriev did. Absolutely destroyed him. What a performance there. And then Tyler Diamond beat Brett Johns in another great performance. The welterweights, then Logan Storley beat Luka Poklit. Luka did a great job, looking for a lot of submissions and all, but Storley got through in the end. Damir Umalatov just destroyed Brennan Ward and kind of choked him in the first round. Lorenz Larkin in a non-season fight beat Alan Dominguez. Musayev beat Ramazanov. Coming into this, I was thinking, I had no idea who'd win this fight. No idea. But Musayev showed that he was a different level. Like, my colleague Ian O'Neill asked me before, the push who you think could win. I said Ramazanov. How wrong I was. Musayev destroyed him. He destroyed him. And it looked like Ramazanov's a bad striker. And I'll tell you what, I cover one championship a lot. I've seen him fight many times. This guy's not a bad striker, but he was made look like one by Musayev. It was a nervy display from Ramazanov, but because of Musayev as well. We'll talk more about that fight in a second. Koreshkov and Yamauchi then. Closer fight than I thought it would be, but Koreshkov got the win deservedly. So Gracie beat Don Madge again in a bit of a shock, and that was the end of it then. So a very, very interesting regular season. Let's just roll through the standings, and then I'll have a quick rundown of the semi-final fights. Obviously, I'm not going to be breaking them down in depth today because we will have more shows for all of those cards coming up when they are coming up. But I will give a quick synopsis of them. But first of all, the people who have qualified, and I'll give you maybe the unluckies. So we'll start off with the featherweight division. Brendan Loughnane and Brendan Loughnane, Gabriel Braga, Kizriev, Kamaka, who can find themselves unlucky. Barracks and Diamond both won one fight each. Carvalho, I suppose, is the other one. He lost 2, but as I said earlier, can find himself unlucky. Goltsov, Popov, Moldavsky and Johnson go through at 265. Who can find himself unlucky? I suppose you can talk about Vassell, who went 1-1 and beat Moldavsky. You can talk about Daniel James, who went 1-0. And Balestini as well, who got injured. Tough Tyrell Fortune as well, 1-0. A lot of lads there can find themselves unlucky. Light heavyweight, Kasanganai, Wilkinson, Yashimurdov and Silveira. Who can find themselves unlucky there? Shufe, C and Polizzi, all 1-1 on the year. Very, very unlucky. Silveira got through 1-1 at 6 points. Lightweight, Primus tops the table. Rabazanov, Dufour and Collard, which I suppose is maybe the most shocking one. I think a lot of people might have expected Burnell to get through, might have been expecting Patricki to get through, and they didn't. Burnell a little bit unlucky. There's 4 lads on 1-1 there that didn't get through. Miranda, Burnell, Piccolotti, Espinoza. 2 lads on 1-0 got through. So that's an interesting one. Oh no, sorry, they're 1-1. Anyway, we'll get. Do you know what? Rather than going through this, we'll get to the semi-final matches and we'll tell you where they are, because I don't think that one's updated properly. Is it the lightweight one? So we'll get to the semi-final matchups. The first of which is going to be Let me just get them up here for you. PFL 7 2024 is going down on August 7th. August 2nd in Nashville, Tennessee. PFL 8 is going down August 16th in Hollywood, Florida. And PFL 9 is going down August 23rd in Washington, D.C. So we have the second week off, did another event, and then another event straight after that. Again, the first event is going to be the heavyweights and the women's flyweights. So we have Goltsov against Johnson, and we have Popov against Moldavsky. Now, Goltsov against Johnson, just quick word on all these fights. I think Goltsov will be a big favourite to win that. You know, Johnson has big power, we all know that, but Goltsov's wrestling, I think, should be enough to see him through in that one. We'll have a full breakdown of it at the time. Popov, Moldavsky, I'm going to have to go back and I'm going to have to watch more of Popov as he, you know, lines up with Moldavsky. Moldavsky can do it all, but he's a flawed fighter as well at the same time. Looking at it straight now, I would say Moldavsky is my favourite for that, but a guy who can blow hot and cold. So, you know, Popov has been winning. He's a winning machine, and we'll see if he can get through that. Love the women's flyweight fights. And obviously all of these cards are going to be filled out with with other fights. But these are just the tournament fights, the semi-final fights. Ditcheva against Bishop. This is the first test of both of their careers. Well, not Bishop. She fought Talia Santos. First test of Ditcheva's career. Bishop can fight. There's no doubt about that. She can fight on the ground, and she can take Ditcheva down and beat her there. Can she beat her on the feet? I think it'll be tough for her, but she's good on the feet as well. No doubt about that. This is a brilliant battle. And then we Santos against Carmouche. What a fight. This is like Talia Santos could have won the UFC title. She was close. Carmouche, the Bellator champion for years. Great fight. Absolutely great fight. Cannot wait for that. Who wins that? I'll be honest. I would have favoured Santos coming into the season. I don't think she's performed massively well. Saying that Carmouche should have lost her last fight. 8 seconds left. She got an armbar. Who wins that? We'll talk about it at the time. We'll give the official pick, but it's very, very close. The second fight of the night, then fight of the semi-finals, is the lightweights and the light heavyweights. So we have Primus against Collard. Again, two snaky fighters here, you know, who find ways to win a matchup you never would have thought of. You know, Collard obviously will want to keep it on the feet and jab up Primus. Primus will obviously want to take it to the ground and look for a submission. Very interesting. Razamanov against Dufort. Obviously, Rabadanov will be a massive favourite going into that. But Dufort has shown as an underdog he can win. There's no doubt about it. Kasanganay and Silveria, obviously we've seen that one before. Kasanganay will go in as the favourite, but Silveira in his last performance looked very, very, very good. He's the bigger man. He's more of a light heavyweight. Interesting fight there. Then Wilkinson, Yashimurdov. Look, if you had said at the start of the year again who would be the favourite in that fight, everyone would have said Wilkinson, I think. But now I think Yashimurdov's probably favourite the way he has fought so far this year. So that's a very interesting one there. And in the final of the 3 semi-final nights, goes down August 23rd. We have the featherweights and the welterweights. I said I'd mention again later on. Musayev against Murad Ramazanov. We saw the fight last week. Musayev destroyed him, but this is the way the cookie crumbles. This is the way the the standings laid it out. And Musayev will be a massive favourite. Then we have Magic and Umalatov. Again, Umalatov will be a massive favourite there. And in the featherweight division, we have Lochnan against Kamaka. That'll be a pick'em fight, no doubt about that. Two good technical strikers. And Braga against Krizriev. Look, Krizriev is going to be the favourite there, but Braga has never minded that before, and he'll be trying to keep that in the feet and beat him there. But Krizriev is very good in the feet, very good on the ground. I cannot wait for them. There's some really good matchups there. Again, let me remind you, they're coming up on August 2nd, 16th, and 23rd of 2024. And then towards the end of the year, we'll have the big finale as well. All right, everyone, that is it from me for today. Thank you very much for tuning in to my recap of the first half, the regular season for the PFL in 2024. And we'll see you for the semi-finals. From me, Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. We'll see you next time.